Hello, everybody. I am Gavin. I I have been I have been running. I started running maybe 10 months ago. Shout out Christian Golden. He is kind of I'd say he's part of the reason that I'm running. And we're on Strava. That's the social media for runners. It's like him and Kim, my wife, are like kind of my only two followers on Strava. And the first day I came back to running, I I could do 2 miles very slowly, and it hurt. It was hard. And my longest run so far after this training is about 9 miles, I think. But I'm very curious what I can train my body to do. That's what I'm curious about. And part of the one of the realizations was that if I pay attention to runners, then it will help inspire me to run. So I've been doing that. And that's some general advice is if you can if you pick up those things you want to focus on and develop and practice in life, and then give your attention in ways which will give you hope and encouragement in your goals, running being one, um, then seems like it works. And it makes sense, whatever you give your attention to, you're going to feed, right? And so I've been trying to intentionally feed um, a a desire to be a better runner. Having said that, I really enjoyed there was a backyard ultra that is called the Last Soul Ultra, and Mark Dowdle. I don't know if it's Dowdale. He he won it. He won it, and gonna shut my door. I know my daughter does not like being recorded, so gotta respect that. But there was, if you go look it up, there was a little bit of like some controversy. There's people who have an idea of what the spirit of the event should be. And Mark he has a competitive spirit, and he played mind games with the people out running for, I think sometimes they can run 4 days, 4 nights in a row, just nonstop. I think they went something like 95 hours. So 4 days, very close to 4 days of running. It's basically set up so that if you run for 24 hours, you go 100 miles. And it's over once you're the last man standing in the backyard. And so you do a loop every hour, and the loop is about 4.1 miles. And I thought it was interesting. I, I like to ask myself, well, what would Jesus do, right? And so there's some situations where it's kind of, I think it's kind of obvious what Jesus would do. And I've played with this in my running, what if I was doing a run and uh, there was a course record I was aiming for. I was in second place. First place was right ahead of me. They had previously tried to push me off a side of a cliff. Um, then they get bit by a rattlesnake. And so, I think a good Christian, I like the setup because this is like potentially an enemy. A good Christian ought to sacrifice that course record to help. um, their enemy who just got bit by a rattlesnake. And so in that situation, that's the way a good Christian would handle the situation is that the competition is not as important as loving your enemy. Um, so I don't know what Jesus, I don't know if Jesus would have done what Mark was doing. Um, but yeah, Mark seems like he was having fun, and that is it's tempting to have fun, right? And that sometimes we have fun at other people's expense, and that is a spirit, the spirit of having fun. There's a spirit of winning, a spirit of having fun. There's different ways to do it. Um, and I think that the people who are complaining about Mark, they they say that I think it's because they believe that that event should be one in where you're trying to you want everyone there to run the best race they can possibly run, to go as far as they can possibly go. And I think they do have an argument. Like, so if Mark wanted to set the record in this specific format, he would have needed someone staying with him. Like 116 hours, I think is the record. 116 hours of running. And he wasn't necessarily behaving in a way where that would happen, right? So, if his goal was to set the record, he wasn't behaving the right way. Um, and that's just part of it. There might be like in hindsight, he might look back and say, "Well, I blew up my chance of setting the record." Um, and he may never get that record, but he might. He seems like a very athletic person, but he may also adjust his tactics, and he may have even had an insight into what was the max that his competition was going to go. And maybe his aim was have fun and win. It was not set records. Maybe he's not there yet where he's trying to set records. Uh, there's a ultra coming up in 2 days called the Leadville. It's in Colorado. So if any of you are in Colorado, maybe see if you can check out the finish line. I think they start at 4 a.m. on Saturday, and you know, the winners might be coming in around 7 or 8 p.m. So I've never done that, but if I was in the area, I'd be interested in meeting with some of those people and kind of cheering for some of them. There's also some places for spectators, along the course, um, if you're out there. But I just wanted to check in and maybe use this as an opportunity to talk about a topic that is kind of fun and interesting and healthy, that I feel comfortable talking about publicly. So I mixed in a little bit of running and a little bit of Jesus. Um, and yeah, I hope y'all are well. And um, yeah, go consider running, consider doing some miles, consider trying to see how far you can push your body, um, to see what it can do. I'm definitely curious. Oh yeah, in that last Seoul Ultra, there was a 46-year-old who was in third place, and that was very impressive. They called him Stormin Norman. I think that's from Germany. So yeah, 46-year-old Norman impressed me, and I went and followed him on Instagram. Uh, I'm not 46 yet, but it gives me hope that when I'm 46, I might be able to do something impressive like that. So yeah, no matter where you're at, I've seen there's stories of people in their 70s and 80s doing some incredible things with their bodies, in these ultras. So pretty cool. Anyways, have a good one. Bye bye.